Okay, John, this way. Okay, right. We are at the St. Michelangelo hotel, and we are now on our way to the Vatican.
No, just because I've had them. They were like
very far from here. Walking distance
and I knew I
to
could
Vatican.
take the metal one. Jennifer is staying here with us today because she had a problem since yesterday morning and then nothing else. And it seems, but we don't know because this is very new to everybody of us. The most important is St. John Lateran, because it's the cathedral of Rome, it's the seat of the bishop. And the seat of the bishop says, the bishop of Rome is who? Pope Francis. Yes. So you are facing the Basilica, the hotel is on the left-hand side. We're talking about probably 10,000 euro per square meter, but you are almost in the Vatican. So this is a very extensive area.
When you said the Vatican owned some of these, who would live there?
Religious institutions, so sisters or
Cardinals and all that.
yeah, also cardinals.
When they come for the council, do they stay within the walls of the Vatican or do they stay on the outside?
They stay into the Vatican with the Catholic Pope. Same side.
These are Vatican walls.
You got. We're gonna get a coffee.
Okay, let's go. Yeah, yeah.
Good morning.
Having coffee in front of the Vatican. We are just waiting for a few minutes. We have. And Tom, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling well.
Okay. So, did you sleep well?
I did, yes.
Are you looking forward to going into the Vatican?
Yes, of course I am.
Is it your first time?
No, I've been there before.
We have just passed the security. And we are in the Vatican.
Sir Anthony.
Oh, if I get a sir, I'll take
Sir
it.
Anthony.
Yeah.
It only took them 2 years to do this. And probably they work to have a date over there, so we have an idea of when it was made. We don't know how long it took them. This is the longest of all of them. It's known as the Gallery of the Geographical Maps. We stop here just a moment. I know that I'm talking a lot, but I have things to tell. Here, as we will walk down the gallery, you will see a wonderful collection of geographical maps dating back to the 1500s. There is altogether 40 maps. Of the 40 maps, 39 show the different areas of the Italian peninsula. And then we have the only exception, which is the one over here, that shows that area of France where is the city of Avignon. 70 years in the 1300s. So since popes lived there for a long time, the Pope who commissioned this beautiful decoration wished to also have this part of France represented here. We call that period the captivity of Avignon. Elections is that here on the left. The ones to the 1500s. And most of them was so from the Nativity that you can see there to his resurrection, 1500s. From the right side. Where in years of work, specialized weavers would replicate the drawings work. Approximately a year to weave approximately a meter. so years, for making something like this. And going back to those on the right wall, here you can see what I consider the most interesting of those on the right side. In fact, here you can see a conclave. Here you can see the election of a pope. We were saying, remember, that popes have crests. So each pope has a different symbol. The symbol of the pope who's being elected here in this tapestry was the bee. That's why at each side of the tapestry, at each corner, you will see a bee. The bee is the symbol of Pope Urban VIII. So this is the moment of his election. If you look at it, you have to consider that what you see there is the Sistine Chapel. The popes are still elected nowadays. That is the Sistine Chapel. The papal chair is empty, but you can see that sitting on it are the and the eyes. So we walk in front of this. If you keep an eye at the corner, at that corner of the stone, you will notice that it shifts and as we walk in front of it. To the right, from the left. And beautiful museums in the world, really. Look at the people here. Thousands and thousands coming to enjoy the beauty of those wonderful works of art here in the Vatican. In front of us is the Basilica of St. Peter, the church that was built with the and it happens to be the biggest church in the world. It stands exactly on the opposite side of the Vatican State. So if you consider that the Vatican has got more or less, very roughly, a round shape, and you draw the how do you call it? The diameter of the circle, then on that end is the Basilica, and we are standing at the opposite end of the perimeter. So you have an idea about how small is the Vatican State. It covers an area of approximately 100,000. That's all. Actually, you will see lots of people visiting these areas of the Vatican State. The museum first and then the Basilica. But most of them are Italian citizens. Work, they have to leave the Vatican and they go back to, normally they come from Rome or from the surroundings. Allora, andiamo. Big pine cone sitting over there. It's an ancient pine cone that was cast in the 1st or 2nd century AD. For centuries, it was part of a big fountain, and then it was moved there to decorate that gigantic niche at that end of the. That is a little door. That is the entrance for visitors. So we won't be using the big gate the Pope or the cardinals go through, but the back door. So we'll get into the chapel through that little door, and once inside, immediately we will be asked to move to the center. So we will be standing practically there. And when you will be looking towards the altar, the only one in the chapel, the altar that you see there, all along the wall on your left, you will see beautiful paintings related to the life of Moses, symbolizing the Old Testament, whereas on the opposite side is the life of Jesus, the New Testament. Of those 12 paintings, I would like you to have a look at this one, because this is the most mentioned normally, because of its subject, which is, as you can see here, the handing over of the keys. In fact, you can see here Jesus handing over to St. Peter those keys that have become actually the symbol of the popes. Above each, if you look at that crest in the big niche, you will see that there are 2 keys surmounting the crest, keys crossing one another like that. One of them symbolizes the spiritual authority of the Pope, the temporal authority of the Pope as head of the Vatican State. So that is the one that is considered not the most beautiful, because they're all beautiful. They were all painted by the best artists of those days. And by the way, this large team of artists who worked at the decoration of the Sistine Chapel. Allora, something else I would like to point out to you is this element, which is the first we notice. It's like the baptistry in Florence. You were in Florence, I suppose. You remember the beautiful baptistry just next to the cathedral with the gates of paradise. So, a baptistry. That's where we are baptized, and baptism is the first step of a Christian life. So it's the beginning of a Christian life. At both sides is the replica, the copy of a famous arch that we will see standing just next to the Colosseum. Is the Arch of Constantine, erected for celebrating the first Christian emperor, Constantine. Replicated twice, because in those days, balance and symmetry were very important elements in a Renaissance composition. The Sistine Chapel was consecrated in 1483, and then a few years later there was another pope. If you want to move over here, please. A few years later, there was the sun and the moon, and then separating land from water. And then finally, he created Adam, and then created Eve. And here we have the banishment from Eden. And then we have 3 more episodes up there which are related to the life of Noah. So certainly we find the big flood, the ark, that Noah, salute we say over here. The big ark that Noah managed to build just before it started to rain. And then all those people hoping to survive by reaching the top of the mountains, but of course they all died. The only survivors were those on the ark. And then we have the sacrifice of some of the animals, and here is the drunkenness of Noah. And all around this beautiful frame with lots of people appearing in it, inside the triangles, ancestors of Christ, and in between the triangles, prophets and sibyls. It took Michelangelo, as I was telling you, 4 years to do it. So he finished in 1512. The result he had obtained was fantastic. In 1512. Then during the next 24 years he did other things. But at some point, he was 61 by then, another pope had him painting again in the Sistine Chapel. Because you see, the original decoration, that on the ceiling, and that above the altar, the wall above the altar, remember this wall here, all that section had been ruined by humidity. So the original decoration was removed and replaced. That's Dorte with the first group. And so Michelangelo spent this time 5 years, and the subject, as usual, was chosen by the Pope. His name was at that point Paul III, and Paul III had chosen this subject, the end of time, the last judgment, of course. When you look at that painting, once we go there to the Sistine Chapel, you will notice that the whole thing is gigantic. And looking at that painting, you might even find a little, unsure, because it looks like a chaotic painting with lots of people floating there. Actually, if you look a little bit more carefully, you notice that Michelangelo has divided this big space into 3 and 4. In the middle, of course, is Jesus, almost at the top, but in the middle. Next to Jesus is Mary, of course, his mother, and almost around them, not quite, but almost around them, blessed souls. Of course, that is heaven up there. And Jesus looks gigantic, lots of muscles. You see, Michelangelo was painting those figures appearing in his frescoes in the same way he used to paint people. Used to carve people. So gigantic bodies full of muscles. You will notice later that Jesus in the Last Judgment looks very similar to a very famous ancient sculpture that I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes.
This is a Vatican inside. We are inside the Vatican. It's a huge.
Both ends of the ellipse, big columns, and right in front of us, we don't see it very well, but it's a sort of metallic fence that delimits the Vatican territory. There is the border again. On the other side is Rome, but on the other side there are buildings that are part of the Vatican. Look here is left well visible on that building, the Vatican flag. Today, tomorrow, we're going to go go through that very special door, which is the last to our right. Now that is the special door that only the Pope may open. And that happens every 25 years. You know, the Jubilee or Holy Year is something that has started in the year 1300s. And for some time, from those days, the Jubilee is every century, every 100 years. Then they decided to cut it down to 50 and then to 25 to give more people the chance to experience at least once in their lifetime a Jubilee. So every time we have a Jubilee, we have so many pilgrims, as we were saying this morning, coming to Rome to visit the tomb of Peter, the first Pope, but also to visit the major basilicas, and this is one of them. The first to be opened is the one here. This was opened this year on the 24th of December. I mean, this time, this past year, last year, no? On the 24th of December, Pope Francis opened that door, and the processions started. There are continuously groups of pilgrims starting from the end of the main street by the river, coming all the way up, stopping continuously to pray. They go through that door, and when that door is open, it symbolizes Jesus to us. And we believe that going through that door is like going through Jesus. And we are given the chance to start a new, better Christian life. And therefore we believe we are forgiven all our sins. So we are granted the plenary indulgence. Then we proceed to the main altar. The main altar practically stands on top of St. Peter's. But we're going to see all that together. So andiamo. Commissioned to Michelangelo when he was just arriving from Florence. He came to Rome when he was very young, 21 or 22, because he thought that in Rome he would have better chances for his work, because here was the Pope and lots of cardinals. And in fact he was right, because soon after he arrived in Rome, one of those cardinals, his name was Jean de Belair, he was a cardinal and he was actually the French ambassador. Michelangelo knew that through that commission, if he was able to do a good work, he would get more work. He would become known here in Rome. And in fact, he moved immediately to choose the right of who had that erected above the main door. Exhibition 28 was the one who had this gigantic canopy made, or baldachin, designed by the genius of Baroque. The same architect who designed that staircase is just designed it, but he actually made it with the help of several assistants. And another fantastic. This is a show of the wonderful history that we are in the longest church in the world. There was a blockade at the access to the tomb, because if you read, it's written in Latin, but it's easy to understand. It's beside the Jesus Church of Saint Patrick in New England, which is 101.20 meters long. The dimension of things in this church, because everything is gigantic. Now that is 30 meters high, and that is a lot, 30 meters. But just above it is the beautiful dome. That is 100 surmounting this mountain made for centuries that was looking so just like now it's different. It's overrized. It's a great mess there. It's not here in Rome or not in the position of doing it. So That's why for centuries only the popes were allowed to celebrate there. Only the successors of Peter could. Allora, there is the papal altar, the baldachin, the gigantic, fantastic dome by Michelangelo, completely covered with arrows. And then the 2 floors was transformed by pilgrims to the sort of and centuries later, Constantine, the emperor Constantine, built a big church over the tomb of Peter. And 12 centuries later, the church was demolished and completely rebuilt by the will of Pope Julius II. Same Pope and Michelangelo painted the ceiling in the Sistine Chapel. You know how long it took them when that was built and decorated? 120 years. It took them so long because having this built and decorated was very expensive. So they needed time to collect the money. They ran out of money often. And so there were big, long interruptions quite often. Anyway, the architects, maybe you heard about the first. His name was Leonardo, then was Raphael, and then was Michelangelo. Michelangelo concentrated his attention mainly on the Roman design. But although he lived to the wonderful age of 89, he didn't manage to see the Roman built completely to the top because at the age of 89, the year 1564, and then has only just about built to the ground. That section where you see the windows, so that he died. And at the same time, they had run out of money once again. That time lasted 22 years. But finally, 2 years later, when they had enough money to continue the work, having lots of workers working day and night, they managed to build it. And then the decoration started. And then they started working on this side. Of course, this is the first portion of the church. Built the pillars, the arms, and the rest 120 years old. Allora, we said that this is of those days, and the sculptor, and the tradition has been for centuries to stop a moment there. Now we can't do that anymore since the pandemic started for hygienic reasons, but the tradition parts of the Pope's body are covered with a mask made in wax that was taken soon after he died. The body is there, but it's not really visible. It's beautifully dressed, and then the face. You did very, very well.
You did a good job.
It was.
It was worth taking.
I'm not used to walking that fast that long.
Yeah, but
you know,
but you made it.
I can do it usually, but it has to be increments.
And it's not so easy in some areas like here, where the floor.
Hello.
residence of the Pope.
That one?
Exactly, the one on the right side beyond the crown building. Allora, that is normally the residence of the Pope, but surely you know that Pope Francis, soon after was elected, he said that he would not move there because he wanted to live as a normal person, so he decided to continue staying in the apartment where he was staying as a cardinal when he first came from Argentina in occasion of the conclave.
So where is that? Which side?
So and that is not visible from here, but it's visible from your hotel.
Oh, I see.
It's somewhere over there. Nevertheless, he goes there every day to work because his studio is there in the Apostolic Palace. And every Sunday at 12 o'clock, he gives a little speech and a blessing, the Angelus, from the window of his studio, which is the second from the right on the top floor. That is the special. We can also see the balcony at which he appeared soon after he was elected, which is the one in the middle where you see the
Oh, yeah. That.
So we won't see the chimney, but we will see the Sistine Chapel. But we need to walk a little further up. That is a building on 3 levels, and in the middle one is the Sistine Chapel. So whenever the conclave is on, here there are lots of people, televisions from all over the world, waiting for the just look grayish, and so when the smoke is black, it means that they had not reached the majority, so they have to vote again. But once the smoke appears white, it's that the Pope was elected, and so they all wait for some time later to see the cardinal appearing at that balcony that you can see better from here. The one who
Up on the hill, just Vatican College. Closed to Vatican. And that was the chapel of Santa Maria. That's Vatican. Mother Sisters, Mother Jesus, nuns, give the tickets to the homeless to take a shower here. Very good. After a long day, we are going to have a good meal. Huh? Yes, very good. How are you doing? Must be tired. Eat well and then sleep well. Okay.